Hello and welcome. We are fired up. The Fiesta Bowl preview show here on, the entire Cyclone Fanatics social media network. We're on the front page of CycloneFanatic.com. Some of you tuning in on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your evening here during the holiday season to join us to talk Iowa State and Oregon. The big Fiesta Bowl coming up on Saturday. Of course, a lot of you probably watching Oklahoma and Florida right now in the Cotton Bowl. Brent Blum is my co-host today. Bloomer, how you doing tonight? I feel like just a little bit like Iowa State should be up there on the Cotton Bowl right now, but the Fiesta Bowl is a pretty good consolation prize.
Not a bad deal at all, and nice of the SEC, as you put it, to run into an actual defense today.
Well, a guy who knows a little bit about all of that. I love this guy. I've been really happy to get reunited with him over the last couple of months, and let's bring him on. People aren't here to watch us.
They're not.
They're here for Coach Mack. They're here for Dan McCarney, and he joins us from the Sunshine State of Florida right now. Coach Mack, how are you doing, my friend? I think we're having some audio issues with Coach Mack, so we're going to give him a call back. Matt Van Winkle's producing the program. He'll give him a call right now. These darn things. We were just testing out Matt
just had him
5 minutes ago, and we're good, so we'll get back to him. But Bloom, honor to have Coach Mack with us, and we'll get him here soon. It's this darn technology is frustrating for everybody. But here's the show coming up. We are going to have Jay Jordan, kind of our X's and O's guru, who is going to be joining us here in about 15, 25 minutes or so to really do the X's and O's and break this game down from that standpoint. And then I'm going to bring in my friend Todd Kirke from Action Fanatics. People betting on this game. What do you think about that? We'll get Todd's expertise when it comes to that coming up. But Bloom, we did a podcast a little bit earlier today, and I think that we both have similar opinions on this football game, that Oregon's it's a really hard team to read. I think that they're probably better than what their record would indicate, but what does the record really mean? Because they haven't played that many games. But, it's a team that is probably using this year as kind of like a rebuilding type year with or without COVID. And I'm a little bit concerned because I think that they'll probably – I do believe Iowa State will get Oregon's best shot on Saturday.
Yeah, elite talent, elite speed, to borrow a Matt Campbell phrase for Oregon. I mean, these guys, they recruit extremely well. They have for a long time out there on the West Coast. And you just look at the names. I mean, they had 3 guys opt out before this year. All will be, first 2-day draft picks in the NFL. And yet they're still able to reload at some spots. And they have their defensive end in Thibodeau is a top 5 draft pick next year. He's only a true sophomore. So they've got guys, all over the field. The one question they have is, the quarterback's been inconsistent, and Chuck is his name. But he was actually in the state of Arizona along with Brock Purdy, and he was much higher recruited than Brock was coming out of Arizona. So those two know each other very well. But you're right. This is the tricky part with bowl season is it's always tricky for a couple of reasons. It's different conferences. You never know the motivation factor. You throw COVID with the uneven games and the uneven scheduling. The fact that Iowa State's played 5 more games than Oregon, and it's just really hard to get a good tell of what this game will look like. But just watching Oregon, the 2 things they have is talent and speed, and that's going to be a factor for Iowa State to try and handle on Saturday.
All right, I'm told that we got Coach Mack back, so let's bring him on, and hopefully he can hear us. Matt, can you hear me?
I sure can. How about it? Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, you sound good, buddy. Good. How you doing down there in Florida?
Great.
We got a foot of snow on the ground here.
Guys, great to be with you.
It's good to be with you. We got a foot of snow on the ground here. I'm sure you don't miss those days of living in Ames.
I don't. No, we miss the people. We miss the unbelievable loyalty of the Iowa State fans, and living in the state of Iowa, it's really hard to beat, but not this time of year. I'd rather be walking the beach at sun 80, and that's what it's been here lately. It's just been gorgeous, breathtaking. We love it. We enjoy it, but we sure do miss the people of Iowa.
Well, it looks like you got a good tan, so good for you. Brent and I most certainly do not have that. But, Brent and I both, I know today, spent some time, and we went back and watched the 2000 Insight.com Bowl. And Mac, I think it's so fitting that 2000 Iowa State goes down there, wins its first bowl game under you. Here we are, 2020, another even year on the decade. And it feels like, to me, that 2000 game was a major step for your program. And getting to this New Year's Six Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, playing a program like Oregon feels like another step for Iowa State football. And I think it's fitting that both of those big moments happened down in Arizona.
I think you're right. I mean, I really do, Chris. And just so proud of Matt and his staff and the players and the job they've done this year. I was just I hadn't been on a plane in months and months and months, but I wasn't going to miss that game down in Arlington last week. So I met my son who lives in Austin, Eric Anderson, former captain, walk-on to captain, Zach Butler, former captain, Jimmy McNulty's son. Jimmy was a teammate of mine, never missed a home game at Iowa State for 12 years, passed away recently, but his son Ted played at Kansas. His son Andrew played at Kansas for me at North Texas. We all got together down there. And then I got the best part about going to games. Obviously, the game was exciting and it was fun, and wish we could have grabbed a couple more points. Phenomenal comeback by the Cyclones. But the best part for me, honestly, was to go back and see a whole bunch of former players. And then I walk in, one of the first ones I see, here's Ellis Hobbs and his son and his nephew and Lane Daniels. I mean, just so many phenomenal people. Bobby Montgomery and Todd Miller and all these guys. We made history together, and we're all there for the same reason, to cheer on the Cyclones, to cheer on Matt Campbell. Came close to winning that Big 12 championship game, but a tremendous game. And it's so fitting, as you said, we worked so hard and so long and wanted it so bad and wanted to, take reality and turn dreams into reality, which we were able to do in 2000 and win that first bowl game in 100 years. And now here we go, 20 years later, guys. Here's Matt and his staff and his team and the Cyclone team going down there trying to match that 9-win season of year 2000 and win a great bowl game, and against a team that's a good football team, obviously. But I'm not a gambler. I never have and never will. But if I was a bet man, I'd put a lot of money on the Cyclones on this one. We're a lot more physical than Oregon. I think you'll see that in the game this weekend.
I love that, Coach. Just quickly back to 2000. You mentioned that was, the only 9-win program in school history. And then this year, it's very similar, right? You're going into the game trying to go 9-3, just like your squad did in 2000. But so many parallels in that game, too. Paul Rhodes was the defensive coordinator for Pitt. And just what do you remember about that game? You told us back in October in our podcast the story about Jermaine Billups, who wasn't even your backup punt returner. He was your third-string punt returner. And what a cool moment for Cyclone Nation and to cap that win off.
Yeah, John Junker, who was executive director of the Fiesta Bowl and the Inside.com Bowl, chose Iowa State over Texas A&M. Texas A&M obviously had a lot better national reputation, more of a college football name than Iowa State. But he wanted to give us a chance. I'll never forget him. I'll never. The rest of my life will be one of the great things that I was ever a part of, to give us that opportunity, give the Iowa State fans a chance to come down and go somewhere hot in December, which our team set as a goal, and led by Sage and all those seniors. Just a tremendous, tremendous football game. First game ever played in a baseball stadium. Right. But you wouldn't have known. I'm going to tell you what, that the people down there that put on that bowl game thanked me and thanked us over and over and over for the class of the football team and the tremendous fan support, because Pittsburgh didn't travel very well to that game, and our fans just showed up everywhere. I'll never forget the pep rally. I'll never forget the football game, and never forget that group of seniors that led us to that game that night.
Coach, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about this year's Iowa State team, because you kind of led into something earlier that I think is been really fascinating. I'm watching Oklahoma beat up on Florida right now, and I don't know, like you said the word physical with this Iowa State team, and by God, like they really are. This is what I've liked about them all year, Coach, is there's no flukes here. They're lining up and beating you. This isn't, Boise State having to run flea flickers and Statue of Liberties against Oklahoma. They are pound for pound just lining up and beating people up. And, the Big 12 has kind of gotten a bad rap on that over the years. But I feel like John Haycock specifically is the defensive coordinator, and Matt's overall values and how he plays the game has kind of helped lead the Big 12 out of that. I don't know if it's fair or not, but that kind of the talking point out there that the Big 12 has been a finesse type of football league for the last decade or so. What do you think about that? And what about this Iowa State team made you point out the physicality aspect of this game?
Yeah, I love it. I love the program, the culture, everything that Matt has put into this thing from the time that he took the job. Went 3-9 the first year, slowly but surely build it. Never gets too high with the victories, never gets too low with the setbacks and the defeats. But the bottom line is, if you're going to have a chance to be consistent and build a program that everybody respects your helmet, everybody respects who you are, you better be physical. And as a football coach that's spent 45 years in Division I football, here's what I really appreciate. Teams that are tough, teams that are relentless, teams that don't beat themselves, teams that have great chemistry, teams that the players really respond to the coaches really respond to the players. There's a great chemistry. There's a great togetherness. And the team that has real grit and resolve. And how many times have we seen that since Matt Campbell took the job at Iowa State? And especially accentuated, I think, this year, because there were some games we sure as hell weren't perfect.
Yeah.
And we got in some holes and we got down. But there's so much confidence and toughness and belief and grit. And it permeates throughout that football team. Don't beat yourself. Be proud of who you are and what we are. Be tough. Be physical. Whatever happens, no matter what happens with the scoreboard, let's go play the next play. And when you see that out of a football team, it's so much fun if you're just a general fan, much less somebody that I spent 12 of the greatest years of my life at Iowa State and love that place and appreciate and respect so much what Matt Campbell's done. And can't wait to watch our team physically line up against Oregon. Great respect for Oregon. Only coached against them one time. We won 9 games in South Florida in 2007. We went to the Sun Bowl, and they took our butts behind the woodshed. They were a really good football team. But great respect through the years. And I know their head football coach, Mario Cristobal. He was at Florida International when I was at North Texas. Hell of a football coach. But if I'm a bet man, I'm telling you, I'd put money on Iowa State. I like our team. I like our tenacity. I like our toughness. I like our physicality. I like the way these guys fought and scratched and clawed right to that last damn play of the game that I just saw in person just a few days ago down in Arlington, Texas. And I think we got a really, really good chance to finish the season with a victory, bowl champions in the Fiesta Bowl, and the 9th win for the first time since 2000.
Coach, I love it. Talk about the difference in a bowl game that Iowa State's going to play in Saturday. I know you played in a lot of, BCS level bowl games. You played in a national championship. You won a national championship while you were at Florida. Obviously played in a bunch of Rose Bowls or coaching a bunch of Rose Bowls. What's the step up? When you're on the big stage now, granted the fan situation, there aren't going to be any fans down in Phoenix, but what is that step up from an emotion standpoint for a team going into a New Year's Six type bowl game?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another mark of the great job that Matt has done and his staff and the players have done. Their ceiling's never too high for Iowa State. And for years and years and years, first thing we had to do way back in 1995 was stop the giggling, stop the laughing, quit laughing at Iowa State football. It's been a laugh. It's been a collegiate joke. Stop the laughing. If you want to respect this, you got to stop that stuff first. We were able to do that eventually. It took some time. And then there's been some ups and downs through the years. Gene Chizik was there, not very long, came and went. Then came Paul Rhodes, phenomenal person, loved Iowa State, great passion for Iowa State, lots of real positive things. In the end, he was replaced, and we brought in Matt Campbell, who obviously was a great hire. I know Jamie Pollard said one time to me, all of you have passed the baton, and that is true. I really believe that is true. Some of us had bigger batons than others when we had to carry a baton to try and get it to the next coach. But this team is it's so well aligned. And I found this out, guys, in all my years in college football and winless programs, national championships, 21 bowl games, 4 of the most dramatic turnarounds in the history of my lifetime at Iowa, Wisconsin, Iowa State, North Texas. You have to have everyone aligned if you got a chance to be successful. They have to be aligned. What's that mean? What the hell does that mean? You got to be aligned. You got to be on the same page. You got to all believe the same things. You got to trust one another. Anybody that touches the program's got to really believe in the leadership and the message that's being laid out and the plan that's being laid out and the goals that we set and the aspirations that we have. And I think you really see that now with the administration at Iowa State, with the football program, tremendous success through the basketball programs, men's and women's, and all the sports at Iowa State. And you just see it now. The perspective that I have from all those years being there and now being removed, there's so much national respect for what Matt Campbell has done and is doing and will continue to do. And I hope like hell he'll retire at Iowa State. I hope we can hang on to him for a long time because he's going to have a lot of opportunities. And you know, one of the real keys too, guys, is that we keep that staff as much as we can intact. And that goes right back to Jamie Pollard, who I think he's done a really good job of improving and enhancing the salaries that we pay those assistant coaches, because Matt Campbell is one of the top coaches in all of America, period, end of story. But he's only as good as the people he surrounds himself with. We all know that. Those guys are so good and so talented and so united and so professional that it really gives us a great chance, I think, every year in the college football seasons to come to be a real factor on the national scene with college football.
Yeah, Coach, I couldn't agree more. I'm a huge John Haycock fan. It was John Haycock who maybe it's just because I'm getting older and I'm getting a little bit more mature, but he made me love defense. I grew up in an era where you love to watch the offense, and your boy Leach and Bryles come along and we're throwing the ball all over the place. I love watching Iowa State's defense, and I think one of the interesting aspects of this football game is Oregon out west. They haven't seen this dime stack defense, the 3-3-5 that Iowa State can throw at you on a couple weeks of preparation. Put your old offensive coach hat back on. How big of a challenge is that for Oregon? If you've never really seen what Iowa State brings, and schematically, it can get very complicated.
It can, and I'm like you. I'm a huge fan of John Haycock and that whole defensive staff. The thing that you really see when you watch Iowa State play defense, these things I appreciate because as a defensive line coach for 20 years, as a defensive coordinator, as a guy that just was around some of the great defenses in the history of college football in my career, you appreciate these things. Real good communication on defense, real good alignment pre-snap, real good tackling in space, and then guys that can make a play when they get an opportunity to make that play. And that's what I love watching Iowa State play defense. They're really communicative. They work well together. They all understand their role. And then you know what happens when there's an issue, guys, and there's a problem, you know where to fix it. The players know how to fix it. The coaches know how to fix it because they understand the scheme so well. And as you mentioned, bring up a great point. Now Oregon's got a little bit of time, not a lot of time, to get ready, not only for the scheme, but how hard, how tenacious, how physical, how bad our guys want it to get to the football. One of the great, some of the great defenses I was ever around in college football. It's, we can overplay this thing and make it too complex. It still comes down to 11 guys wanting to get to the ball really bad. And hopefully when you get there, you're there in a bad mood. And when you get there in a bad mood, hopefully you can tackle. And hopefully we can get some turnovers along the way. And under John Haycock's leadership and that scheme and the guys that we have out there right now, they love playing the game. They appreciate and they respect good defense. And as you mentioned, and it started, I'm telling you now, one of the most underrated defensive coordinators in all of my years in college football was John Skladany, who was with me all those years at Iowa State. And with me at North Texas, we went from a joke and laughing to 9 wins in 2013. Johnny Skladany, to me, was a lot like John Haycock. One of those guys been around a long time. He got a lot of chips on the old rifle. There's little notches in the gun. Been around, heard it all, seen it all, and been able to make those adjustments and still lead and inspire people. And John Skladany and John Haycock have really been great. And thank God Iowa State's had both those guys.
Mac, one of my favorite games, unfortunately, the Cyclones didn't come out on top, but watching Jason Berryman in the first half against TCU in the Houston Bowl, is that the best half of an individual player that you've ever seen? I've said that for years. If you go back and watch that tape, watching Jason Berryman in the first half of that game was just something I'd never seen before.
Yeah, and he was an unbelievable talent. We tried to do everything we could during his career to channel the talent, to challenge his abilities, to challenge him on and off the field, to be a better player, to be a better man. Unfortunately, he made some poor decisions along the way. But when he took the field, Mike Nelson, God bless him, is gone now, as is Bobby Elliott, as is Ennis Haywood and Justin Eilers, Chris Love, Stevie Hicks. Some of the great Cyclones through the years aren't with us anymore. But I'm going to tell you what, you challenged those guys and they would respond. And they were tough and they were physical and they gave everything that they had. And at the bottom of the whole thing, guys, they cared about each other. They cared about the Cyclones. They put that Cyclone helmet on, that Cyclone jersey on, and they wanted people to respect us. And they wanted to try and do things that had never been done before. And Berryman did the same thing. And that game, as you mentioned, great point, down in the Houston Bowl, Reliant Stadium. TCU was kind of the home team down there. In the end, they end up getting had a few more points than we did. But Berryman went home. It's home. It's Houston. He's back home. Brent Kirke, one of the unbelievable football players from Texas. And Mike Nelson, God bless him, coached those guys, had a lot to do with recruiting them, and they played their tails off. We just came up a little bit short that day in that bowl game.
Coach, while we're on bowl games, I've always wanted to ask you this, and I feel like the statute of limitations is up now. Was Tony Elk's kick good against Alabama?
Damn right it was good. Damn right it was good. And I'll tell you this, Margie and my children were in the end zone where that kick took place. And if you can't trust Margie and my kids, who the hell can you trust, guys? It was good. There's no doubt about it. We should have had that one. I will always appreciate that team. And then yet, as when E. Hobbs and I were together last week at that game down there cheering like crazy for the Cyclones, here's a guy, let me tell you this. This is what's so fun about when you care about a place and you love a place. Yeah. Ellis Hobbs went on to a tremendous NFL career, many years, successful in life. He'll continue to be. You know why? Because he had talent, because he had character, he had integrity, he had passion. He hasn't lost any of that. And the other thing he hasn't lost is the love for Iowa State. So he walks into that place, sat right in front of all of us that were there. And he had his son and his nephew. Came with this big homemade Iowa State. He got it made somewhere. I'm telling you, it's one of the flashiest, most beautiful Iowa State coats I've ever seen. Ends up taking that off as we get going into the game. Then he's got an Iowa State shirt on underneath that. Then he ends up taking that thing off. He's all worked up. He's screaming his yelling. By the time we're trying to win the game at the end of the game, he's got a tank top on. He's all worked up. He's breaking a sweat, yelling and screaming and working those the stands up there, just trying to cheer for the Cyclones. And that's when you know something's really special. That's when you know a university and a school means so much to young people. When all these years pass and they're up in the stands as fans and they care and they love so much about a university and a football program. And that was E. Hobbs just a few days ago.
I guess we have to ask it after that. Seneca was in, right?
Oh, hell yes, Seneca was in. And no, he was in. And a lot of people said that. A lot of people saw it. Unfortunately, we know we didn't have the rerun back then, guys. Yep. Yeah. Would have loved to have the review. I remember Dave McCurry, a phenomenal former Cyclone. He and his wife, Susan, they were some of the first ones that jumped in when our fundraising was in the dark ages. I mean, where were the dark ages? It was before that. It was beyond that. It was way back. And Dave McCurry and Susan jumped in to really help us, as did so many people. I can't name them all, the Bergstroms and the Dick Jacobsons and all these people that jumped in. But Dave McCurry was right there in the end zone. And he was right there. And as soon as Seneca scored and they said no, he came running right down the sideline to me, yelling and screaming at me. He scored. And it's like, what the hell can I do about it right now, But no question. But those are great memories. Guys, Seneca Wallace is down on the Dallas Cowboys staff right now. Pretty cool that you got a guy like that played at the highest level, gave everything he had in his 2-year career at Iowa State. And now he's getting a chance to go in and start developing and helping players at the highest level in the National Football League. Pretty cool for Seneca Wallace.
Mac, man, I can't tell you how much it means to be able to have you and come on and talk with us like this. I know I speak for Brent. We absolutely love you, man. We cherish memories with you at Iowa State, and you're an institution, my friend. And if you ever want to get anything out to the Cyclone Nation, you always have a voice here with us, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's all these years past, and I watch Iowa State and I get freaking goosebumps. I'm not trying to get sentimental. I just tell the way it is. I watch them in men's basketball. I watch them in women's basketball. As you guys know, Billy Fenley's one of my closest friends in life. I cheer for Matt Campbell. I text him. I don't call him. I don't bother him. He always responds. He always gets back to me. I'm so damn honored that all these years pass and people still remember us. And based on the response that we got in the stadium last week, people really respect and appreciate what all of my coaches and players did years ago to help build a foundation that hopefully Matt can continue to build off of now for years to come. It is really and truly great to be a Cyclone, and let's all cheer the Cyclones on to that 9th victory this weekend, guys.
Well, everybody's taking your advice, and they're all at the sports book right now. Put money on the Cyclones.
Happy New Year. Go Cyclones.
Thanks, Coach.
Tell the family hi, all right? We love you, man.
To be with you. Take care.
All right, buddy. Take care. Oh, the great Dan McCarney. All right.
How do you follow that? How do you follow that?
I'm going to go lift some weights.
Sheesh.
I'm going to go and rip my shirt off and hit a boxing pad or something like that.
Oh.
Holy mackerel.
Good luck to Jay Jordan and Todd Kirke for attempting to follow. But I mean, it's amazing, Chris. That guy could have a lot of reasons to resent Iowa State and be bitter about how it ended. But yet, look what he's wearing. He's got cardinal and gold on. He traveled to Arlington when, he didn't have to do that, and he's just a legend. I mean, great word. He's an institution for Iowa State, and I truly believe we would not be previewing a Fiesta Bowl without Dan McCarney. And this is why it's the perfect way to lead this off, because it's been a relay race, and he was the first 2 legs of that relay race.
All right, I got to do something really quick. Get over here, sweetheart. So I have a little girl, Brent. Her name is Cammie.
Hi, Cammie.
She's my best buddy in the whole wide world, and she wanted to be on TV so bad tonight. And what do you want to say to everybody?
Go Cyclones!
All right. That's what I'm talking about. Cammie was so excited when I put the YouTube TV up on the TV upstairs, and she wanted to come on and tell everybody how much she loves the Cyclones. Real quick, Cameron. Iowa State, your Cyclones are playing the Oregon Ducks. The Ducks on Saturday. Do you like Ducks as a mascot, or do you like Cy better?
Cy.
Okay, that's my girl. You tell everybody go Cyclones and say hi to Uncle Brent, okay?
Have a good night, Cammie.
Hi.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Can I have a kiss?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go see yourself on TV, okay? There you go.
Fantastic.
You know what? These kids, man, they I mean it. When you work the hours that we do during a season, they sacrifice a lot, and our wives do. And
absolutely.
I appreciate that kid, man, more than you know.
Hopefully my 2 little guys are asleep at the in-laws right now. So if they're not, then go to bed.
Cammie was very excited when she saw me setting up my lighting, and she's like, "Dad, you're on TV." I'm like, "Well, no, not necessarily, but we'll let her think that I'm on TV."
Yeah.
All right.
Just cash the checks.
Coming up here, Matt Van Winkle's producing tonight's program. Matt, bring yourself on the stream real quick. I want to recognize you for helping get Coach Mac's audio figured out. We appreciate it.
Glad we got that figured out.
And we will also be on coming up on Saturday.
Yes.
Todd Blythe, Brett Meyer, and I, and Van Winkle will be on at halftime on this stream, halftime of the basketball game leading up to kickoff. We're going to have a few of these right here. Brent Blum, this is Cody Road whiskey. Cody Road bourbon right here.
For 2 reasons. Baylor in basketball and just a little pre-gaming for the football game, right?
There you go. I'm actually
optimism, Matt. Optimism.
Combining the 2. There you go. Look at that. What's that, Chris?
This is the experimental elderberry wine barrels, Cody Road right there. So anyways, all right, we had our fun. Thanks to you, Matt. Appreciate it. Wanted to recognize you for all of your work here. We got Cammie on. We made that little girl's night. Now she better be getting to bed. And I want to bring in another dear friend of mine. His name is Jay Jordan, a man who was once recruited by Dan McCarney. But I believe Dan McCarney was in Iowa at the time.
That's correct. That's how old I am. Thanks, Chris.
So Mac recruited you to Iowa, and you still went to Iowa State and played for Jim Walton.
I did. He didn't have quite the motivational sway on me.
Man.
I don't know how you turn that down, Jay, but hey, it all worked out for you, it appears.
It did. I'm happy with my choice, and I love Coach Mac.
You do. Well, Jay, Blum and I were talking earlier today. It's actually for guys like you and me to an extent because of you, because you've got me, and between you and Matt Campbell over the years, you guys have turned me into a film junkie. It's difficult to get a great read on Oregon because they really are. I don't even know if I would say mid-season form yet, but they're still kind of learning who they are as a football team. Blum astutely pointed out the difference in Texas and Colorado last night. Texas kind of knew who they were, what they were doing. Blum, I went back and watched the second half of that football game on the DVR, and I think you nailed it. What do you expect from Oregon? I mean, what do you, from what you've seen on film, and I know you've watched a lot of them, what do you see from this football team that just pops for you as an Iowa State guy?
I think you're right in that observation. It's interesting. We saw it with Iowa State this year, right? The team that finished the season, the last 4 games, was markedly different than the first 4 games. We see that in any season, honestly, and fortunately for Iowa State, they got to have a full season and make those progressions and growth. What happens there is you see kids mature. So Oregon has some youth, like you talked about, that they were rebuilding. So particularly, let's look at their linebacker position. Ultra talented 5-star type kids, great athletes. They run fast and hit hard, but they're young. And those early games that Oregon played, you could tell they hit the wrong hole. They got trapped inside. UCLA game jumps out at me in how they played and some of the deficiencies they had. But then you saw Oregon in their final 2 games stuff the run and be very strong against the run, largely because those guys had matured a little bit, seen enough film, seen enough live action to come in there and do what they were supposed to do. What do we see in this game? Probably more of that. A little bit saltier Oregon team that is gaining that identity. I mean, they lost the game to Cal, but the game against USC, you saw them mature a little bit more defensively. Offensively, you saw them regress a little bit as the quarterback. How do you pronounce it, Brent?
Shuck.
Okay, as you saw him struggle a little bit with some of the more complicated looks that he saw from a Cal team and from USC a little bit. But their offense is innovative enough and problematic enough for the Iowa State defense that I think you see a pretty strong effort out of them. I mean, we can talk more specifically about how they match up and what we can see schematically. But I think you see a maturing team in Oregon. You see a mature team in Iowa State. How that butts up, whether it's the Texas-Colorado difference, it's a little bit flipped, right? Texas is the ultra-talented, mature team. Colorado's the less talented, maturing team. Here you've got more talented Oregon. Let's put that in quotes.
Sure.
Fires me up a little bit. But you have more talented Oregon who is maturing and the mature, less talented Iowa State team. It'll be interesting.
I think that, Jay, the interesting part coming out of Eugene this week was their nonstop talking about Iowa State's physicality. And I think, when we watch Iowa State day in and day out, we may not appreciate it, but Iowa State is unique in a couple of things. The tight end setup, playing 3 of them at a time, and just the overall physicality on offense and defense. And Mario Cristobal was very enthusiastic in his praise about Iowa State that this will be the most physical game they play. And what exactly does Iowa State do in that physicality that can present a program like Oregon, who's young, some problems?
It's a mental. We can jump back to some of the things that Coach Mack was talking about. That's a mental edge. Physicality is mental. Okay. Right. We call it physicality, so we think that's a physical thing. Physicality is all about being mental, because every task you perform, from catching the ball there by Charlie Kohler to running into the guy, every task you perform on every play in football hurts. So you have to have a mental edge, and you have to either not feel that, fight through it, or give a little bit of extra. At the collegiate level, sometimes it takes a guy a year, 2 years, 3 years to get to the point that they're able to bring that physicality. What you see with Iowa State is a team that has matured into the Matt Campbell mentality. They're finally where he wants them to be, or on the cusp of where he wants them to be throughout the offense and the defense in being physical and being able to physically dominate somebody. It creates mental breakdowns. That's what it does. What it does is it creates a guy who is tired of filling the hole and getting popped. And so he takes a step outside to try to avoid it. And now you've got a 1 yard gap for Breece Hall that takes it to the house instead of a half-yard gap that he squeezes through for 5. That's what it does.
Yeah, that was to me, Jay. I'm with you, by the way. After watching Oregon, I think I'm probably a little cautious, just the old Iowa Stater in me, but I think that they're a little bit like Oklahoma, the team we're watching right now in the Cotton Bowl. They're not as good, but we saw Oklahoma struggle early in the year, right? And they're breaking in a new quarterback. They're doing all this stuff. They get better defensively throughout the year. Now I think they're a top 10 defense in all of college football.
I agree.
Oregon, to me, and I've watched all their games now, some of them a couple times. They seem to me like they really remind me of watching Oklahoma, that game in the Pac-12 championship, watching Oklahoma when they went into TCU. And we were kind of like, I don't know, Max Duggan, it's Gary Patterson, and they go and just knock them out. To me, Oregon is at that point where regardless of what happens really in this Fiesta Bowl, you look at the Pac-12 next year, Oregon's going to be one of the teams that people are picking to win that conference. Same with Oklahoma. Now, they didn't make the playoff, but Lincoln Riley's using this Cotton Bowl tonight because he thinks he's got a top 5 team in the country going into next year where he can win a national championship. I don't know if Oregon's on that level, but the trajectory of where this program – I love Cristobal. I've fallen in love with the guy. He's kind of entered my top 5 right there with Campbell and Fitzgerald and all my guys.
We need a running like a spreadsheet.
I got a lot of guys. I know.
Yeah.
I love Cristobal. I'm a big Cristobal guy. But what do you think of that analysis, Jay? Because I don't know if they're there yet, but I don't think they've had the opportunity to get there, which is a little bit scary to me as an Iowa State fan.
Agree totally. I think that they were the favorite going into this year. They're always going to be considered because of how well they recruit. And I agree with you about Coach Cristobal is he's on the level of Matt Campbell. He's a program builder. His attitude that he puts in place there. They're also very innovative in the way they play offense. The way they play defense, I think, is innovative and deceptive, even though they gave up a lot of yards and points in some of their games. I feel like this is these games that we're walking into here these next few days for each of these teams. It's such a strange season. It's easy to make this season have as good a season as you can. It's a wash because everything's so weird. I think there's an opportunity. Iowa State's taken it. They didn't take that approach. And I think Oregon's in that spot too. Chris, what you're talking about is taking advantage of an opportunity and a platform to build a firmer foundation on which to propel yourself forward. And Oregon has the opportunity to do that. It's such a great teaching tool for that team. Those 2 losses were hurtful. They were close. Mm-hmm. They were hard fought. They were unexpected. That's such a good learning. We've seen Campbell use losses like that in the previous seasons to build on where he is now and where he hopes to be next year. I think you're going to see Oregon do the same thing. And because of that, you're going to see a feisty contest tomorrow. Or not, but on the second.
When you look at this game, where do you see Iowa State's advantages between them and the Ducks? Obviously, the speed for Oregon is going to jump off the page, but Iowa State obviously is the favorite for a reason and has some advantages here too.
Yeah, the comfort level of Iowa State, I'll play on Mac again, their knowledge of their defensive structure and their discipline within it is an advantage for Iowa State. Breece Hall. It may be that simple for me. Right. This game is Oregon, while playing in their most recent games very solidly against the run, were extremely vulnerable to the run. In particular, the UCLA game, I'll point out, where they ran the stretch in the outside zone very well against Oregon. Iowa State's better at it than UCLA, and Breece Hall's frankly better than anybody they've played so far this year. The kid from Oregon State was really good, but he's not Breece Hall. And if Iowa State can get a toehold in the run game, Oregon plays – they have the athleticism to play man coverage in D, which has been a problem for Iowa State this year. That may be a wrinkle that they throw out there, but if they sit in their ordinary coverage packages where they're playing pattern match and they're playing off, then Iowa State's throw to the wing, hitting Landon Akers and Tariq Moulton off of play action from Brees out there gives Iowa State an opportunity to be patient, run the ball out there, and then hit big plays both in the run game and the pass down the seams. I think that's Iowa State's offensive advantage. Defensively, it's Iowa State's defensive line. I think Will McDonald, I think Jaquan Bailey, I think I think Isaiah Lee, all those guys that play and rotate through there are strong and good, and there's a vulnerability on Oregon's offensive line that allows the defensive line to hopefully be a factor with pressure.
Jay, Iowa State's offensive line, I'm not going to beat those guys up. They've played really well this year. I've been really impressed, especially with Downing going down early like he did. You lose Ramos against Texas Tech. They've fought through adversity. You've seen young guys like Simmons and Remsburg step up. Sounds like Remsburg's probably going to be out in the Fiesta Bowl. But that was the one point I thought probably in the Big 12 championship where if the program, it was like, oh, well, kind of reverted back a little bit. They got beat up front offensively. How do you see that matchup? Because Oregon's got one stud on the end, on the defensive end, and Thibodeau. Right, Blum Thibodeau's his last name.
Yes,
fantastic player, All-American level guy.
Top 5 draft pick next year. Yeah,
he's only going to get better. Yeah, just a stud. My scout would be that Oklahoma has a better unit on the defensive line, but they didn't have the top end talent like Thibodeau that Oregon has. How do you rate the matchup of Iowa State's offensive front? And I would include the tight ends into that conversation, as you just mentioned, against that defensive front from Oregon. So
the pressure from Oklahoma, which was the most significant point in that game, in my opinion, came straight up the middle. Newell was getting beat and Schweiger was getting beat. I think the guy's name is Isaiah Thomas. I'm not sure, 93 or 95.
Yep.
Was dominating that game, especially early on. Pressure from up the middle is harder to deal with, as we saw, because it's hard to bring a tight end across when you're playing out of the shotgun to help stymie that pressure. If that pressure is coming off the end with a talented end guy, then you have the 3 guys you need to help control that end. What I think the caveat to that is, and also I'll mention that the other Oregon defensive linemen have a tendency to get stuck on their blocks, which allows you to get leverage in the run game and allows Purdy to do some things in the pass game as well. But if you have to spend too much attention, Iowa State gains great leverage with the 3 tight ends when they don't have to use them as extra blockers, when they become multiple passing threats underneath. If you have to chip, if you have to help Foster or Ramos or whoever it is out on that tackle with those guys, you have to be protect those edges with the tight ends and keep them in. Then Iowa State gets in a position that they've got to rely on their wideouts and they've got to rely on less deception and playing off of each other in their route trees. That'll be a struggle for them. That'll be the key to the game, in my opinion, with regard to Iowa State on offense is how do they control that edge rusher and some of the pressure packages that Oregon will bring. If they control it well, if they play off of it, meaning they chip, they hit, and then they delay route around, which I think they have the opportunity to do and hit big plays on Oregon if they take that approach, then I think Iowa State will handle it okay. But that pressure on the outside, I am always less concerned about that outside pressure because I can motion guys, because I can use a tight end out there, than I am about that pressure straight up the middle. If they're able to bring their pressure straight up the middle like Oklahoma did, then it'll be a long day.
Jay, simple question for me. Iowa State wins if, and Oregon wins if.
Oregon wins if their quarterback – first of all, I just have to say this. I love some of their offensive scheme. Their mesh concepts and their RPO game, which takes it to another level with the deepness of their run options and almost produces kind of a quadruple option situation, is going to be hard to control. If Oregon can hit some big plays in that, if they take advantage of Datrone Young and Kyle on the outside, on the backside of some front side play action, and they don't turn the ball over, the quarterback doesn't get feisty with the ball and make bad decisions, Oregon can win this ball game. Iowa State wins if the running game is sound. Iowa State's defense will dial it in. It'll be hard for Oregon to move the ball regardless of what they're hitting on for a significant portion of the game, because that's what they do. But offensively, the run game has to be paramount and has to be primary to take away, to mitigate some of the decision issues that Purdy has when he starts to press.
Jay, I mean it, man. I think you're the best analyst out there in the mid. I mean it, man. I'm not blowing some. You tried to quit this year, and I wouldn't let you.
Well, it's in my blood. I'll be back strong in the spring.
I love you, man. Thank you so much for
Jay.
your contributions.
Thanks,
Great
Brent.
analysis. We all are smarter for your contributions. So thank you very much, my friend.
Be well. Go Cyclones.
All right, buddy. Jay Jordan right there. The pride of the Jim Walden era.
You just get smarter talking to that guy. Chris, we're smart enough, clearly, through the first 47 minutes of this program. Just get really talented, smart people on. Would you surround yourself with smart people and you look better yourself? I don't think that's ever been more true, at least for you.
As I pour some more Cody Road. Real quick, before we bring in Todd Kirke, and we're going to look at the gambling aspect of this game. I want to thank our sponsors who have been our postseason sponsors all postseason long. Fairway Meat and Grocery, the Iowa Clinic and the Iowa Clinic Men's Center, Wild Rose Casinos in Jefferson, of course, the DraftKings Sportsbook there, and our newest sponsor at Cyclone Fanatic, the Graphite Construction Group. I look forward to telling you guys more and more about them in the coming months. But Jay was fantastic. And now I want to I don't know, have you ever met Todd Kirke, Blum?
Maybe casually. I know him through your radio program, through the Action Fanatics podcast, and he's just picking winners left and right.
He's a degenerate, and I love him for it.
Mr. Mac.
He's
Mr.
got
Mac.
He's got a personalized Browns jersey. He's a Matt Campbell type of guy. What's up, Todd?
What? Seriously, I'm surprised this wall is intact behind me, because after Mac was done, I thought I ran through it.
Same way here, dude.
Same
way here.
I'm typing in notes. I wanted the coach to see me. You guys got to understand, and I won't dominate the program, I promise.
Oh, you're fine.
But I graduated from Iowa State in '93. I was a 5-year student, so
Well done.
I paid my dues. Coach Matt came. I was a guy. My friend has a highlight when Walden and the team got off the bus when we beat Oklahoma. We were there. We went there and we're hammered, and we're behind him on TV5. Keith Murphy has got hair and everything. So when Matt came, I was fortunate enough to get to know him and meet him. And I sent a picture out. It's on Twitter now. I actually was staying in Iowa City at the Marriott for work, and I ran into Mac at the bar, and he was being honored. It's a Thursday night. He was being honored Saturday by the Hawks. That's how big. He's not just an Iowa State guy, folks. I mean, he's an Iowa guy. His dad was chief of police in Iowa City. He grew up and went to school there, coached there. Mac forced me, and I don't write. I'm not a writer, but I wrote a letter. Gosh, this had to be Tim Floyd. I think it was Tim Floyd and Mac. I wrote a letter to the editor, if you guys can remember. That's gone. I don't even know people
anymore. Yeah.
How old
Stone
are you,
Age
man?
is there. Jeez.
Yeah, 50-year-old. I wrote a letter to the editor, Iowa State, keep their coaches. Finally, we had a guy who got it. I saw him on the trail in the summers. The guy, listen, I mean, I went to that game. I was on the field at Bank One Ballpark is what it was called. After that game, and you saw Sage slip and make that pass.
Oh, yeah. I just watched it. Yeah.
They closed the roof, so nobody knows. It's Iowa State fans were everywhere. The pregame, Johnny Orr was there. I was gone. My son is, he was 6 months. He's 6 months old at that time. We go to Dan Marley's afterwards. But anyway, during the game, we snuck in, and we got the best seats right behind Pittsburgh's bench. So I'm watching Iowa State the whole time. Phenomenal. Antonio Bryant was a great receiver for Pittsburgh.
Yep.
They're like, oh, Iowa State can't beat Pittsburgh. There's no way. We own that game. That return, you guys talked about it. Who was it that returned that punt?
Jermaine Billups.
Unbelievable. Like the place went, look at
There's the slip. There's the slip.
Oh, the slip. So you guys, after the game was over, I'm like, we're going on the effing field. Like, we are going on the field. So I entered the field right basically behind home plate. And these guys are like, oh, no, don't go. I go, dude, I'm from Iowa. Like, I started sweet talking him. Then we got to talk. We're like, oh, my gosh, I've seen McGuire hit a home run through these things. And you're standing there at home plate going, oh, my God, he hit a home run. Wait a minute. I got to go celebrate. I gave Mac, and it wasn't Berryman. Who was the guy who got drafted by the Denver Broncos?
Reggie Hayward.
There you go.
The turf was terrible when that game ended. Like the fourth quarter, it was getting all ripped up because they closed the roof on him. I gave Berryman and Coach a piece of the turf after the end of the game. I was so hammered. It was great. He changed everything, and you can see why. Like when he was on the recruiting or the summer trail, playing golf tournaments, doing whatever. I mean, he was phenomenal in front of he got the boosters to where they needed to be. And I think, Brent, you said something that I think is indicative of the man that he is. He has a right to be upset with Jamie Pollard for how he was let go. He does. In my opinion, he does. Because listen, I've been to Iowa State games my whole life. He beat Iowa. Like, that was the whole thing. Iowa fans, I went to Rose Bowls. I've seen it. He beat Iowa 5 years in a row. He changed the game, and he got fired. And that was a tough thing. But he's a better man. He's a bigger man, and that should show all of us how you need to live life.
And kudos to Jamie for leaving the door open too. I mean, he could have shut it after the fact too and said, "Hey, we don't really want you around considering how it ended." But both those guys are
100%.
great men, and Iowa State's to thank for where it is now.
Yeah, I told Chris the other day. Those two guys. Even though one fired the other, and like I love, they're on the Mount Rushmore for me.
No doubt.
Totally agree.
Totally
agree. Todd, let's look at this Fiesta Bowl from a whole other side of things, and it's a side that you and I are both passionate about, and we think is really growing. I don't know about you. I feel like this bowl season has been crazy as far as the amount of engagement on the betting scene. I think it's just a preview of things to come. We've seen Vegas breaking records in the month of November. And we have a great relationship with the DraftKings Sportsbook at the Wild Rose Casino up in Jefferson. They sponsor our Action Fanatics podcast. You can listen to it every week on the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network. You can follow Action Fanatics on Twitter. Todd handles that bad boy, and we're always giving analysis and whatnot. But let's Maddie Van Winkle running the show. Let's pull up the point spread and the number for this for this Fiesta Bowl coming up on Saturday. Iowa State currently a 4-point favorite at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The number at 58. Todd, what's interesting about this game, usually these New Year's Six type games are pretty heavily bet. For instance, and there's been a lot of movement. This Oklahoma-Florida game, it's moved like 9 points. That's because Florida's lost all these guys. But compare it to the Fiesta Bowl here. The line hasn't moved. It got up to Iowa State at 5 for a while. It's back down to 4. What's your analysis on this number? And it's just really stayed steady.
Well, it's so, in kind of order of how I thought about this game, Chris, I want to kind of start with what I see are trends, and not only maybe on the season, but basically as these teams in bowl games. So the first thing I look at Iowa State. They're 7-1 as a favorite. Oregon's 1-0 as a dog this year. One of the glaring differences between these two teams is Iowa State is plus 45 versus the line. So, regardless of where they stand as a favorite or a dog, plus 45 points is pretty big, whereas Oregon's minus 21 versus the line. So when they lose, right? When they win, it's not been that impressive. The under for both of these teams is really the last 6 games. If you take Iowa State's last 4, Oregon's last 2 have gone under. You and I have talked a little bit about this, and I think I'm going to freak you out when I get to this. But let's look at the bowl. So that's the
This is not good.
We have muted Mr. Mack. Mr. Mack, unmute yourself.
He got muted.
There you go.
I got it. Sorry.
All right, there you go. You're back now.
So I'm going to look at the bowls here real quick.
Okay.
Oregon's 7-3 as a dog in college football bowl games. They've won 6 of those outright, which is a scary number because they're coming in here as 4-point dogs to Iowa State. Iowa State in bowl games is 0-2 as a favorite. So you've got a trend. These are just trends, as you guys know. I throw those out there. They are what they are. But Iowa State's 1-0 in the state of Arizona in bowl games, as Mac talked about, right? So that's a nice trend you can get there. What I like is on the over-under part of this is this year alone. I know what you're going to say, but listen to this.
Play the under.
After the 2 losses we've had in the season so far, over. So we're 2-0 to the over so far going into those seasons. So, or looking at just this season, which I think recency bias is there. And I wanted you guys to ask Coach this. What matters here? Like, this is to me is a quintessential game. You've got a team that's played 11 games and you got a team that's played 5. What makes the difference? I'd love to hear from you guys. Would you rather have the 5 games, small sample size, probably relative health, or would you rather have the full season, tried and true, many more plays, maybe not full health, although both these teams are actually pretty darn healthy? What would you guys rather have coming in this game?
I'll let you go first, Blum.
And then I think that's the mystery here is I don't know enough about Oregon to really say. I think I would take the full season, the full 11 games, because then I know what I'm good at, what I'm not good at, and I've seen a lot more. And I think this is the question with Oregon. They have not seen what Iowa State is going to give them on the defensive end. And you've got a quarterback that's been super inconsistent and has really struggled the last 2 games in Chuck. He's not been very good the last 2 games. You throw that really strange Iowa State defense that gives even veteran quarterbacks problems. Look what Iowa State did to Rattler in the second half of that Big 12 championship. And this guy's not Spencer Rattler. And
3 points.
Exactly. And so I think this is why I look at this game, and I would want a fuller menu if I'm Oregon to see something similar. And I don't know enough about the Pac-12 defenses to give you like an honest answer if somebody plays something similar. But I can guarantee you the first time you play Iowa State as a quarterback, it is extremely difficult. Look what Iowa State did to Memphis in 2017 in that bowl game, and that offense came in second ranked in the country. So, Notre Dame is a little bit different animal because Notre Dame was just more physical and just really outmanned Iowa State. But I think you give Iowa State the opportunity to prepare for these guys, and that's why I'd rather have the 11 games and have the extra reps, especially on the defensive end.
I would be the same, Todd.
Yep.
Mainly in the sense that I don't know if you heard Jay and I talking last segment, but Oregon reminds me of a little bit of like an Oklahoma light. I don't think that they're on Oklahoma's level right now, but I do think that that's a team that took a couple losses early. They're more talented than their record would tell you, and they're building for next year. What happens, just winning the Pac-12, they are building for next year. This is kind of a redshirt type year for them. For a team like that, if I'm using that Oklahoma level, I'd rather play Oklahoma in middle of October than I would in late November, middle of December, like Iowa State just did a couple weeks ago in Arlington. So yeah, that's where I'm at too. And I'll say this too, Todd, as a guy who follows Iowa State closely, when you look to handicap this thing, I mean, Iowa State's pretty healthy. I mean, they've been without Trevor Downing since the first half of the first game. They've been chipped away with injuries here and there, but I mean, Tariq Milton's kind of been in and out of the lineup, but really it's a pretty healthy football team. So I think in this particular scenario, I think Iowa State holds the advantage, Todd.
Yeah, and I'm looking, I appreciate that because I kind of believe the same thing. I believe you've got a team that really hasn't been able to find itself. However, Brent talked about the defense. Well, here's Oregon State's. This is what they've scored: 35, 43, 38. Those were all in wins. 38 in a loss, 21 in a loss, 31 in a win. So there's no defense being played in the Pac-12 at all this year. And we've heard it enough from their coaches, whatever. So Iowa State's got this scheme that they haven't seen. So I want to get into the stats next. Let's look where Iowa State lies versus Oregon in the stats. And really, these teams are actually pretty equal. If you look at points, yards, red zone, pretty much straight across the board, pretty equal. Here's where the difference comes in. It comes on defense. Whereas Oregon's defense gives up 27 points a game, Iowa State 22. That's a big difference. Oregon, 409 yards a game. Iowa State, 344. And red zone scoring, Iowa State 72% of the time, and Oregon 79%, so almost 80%, whereas Iowa State is about 85% when they're in the red zone, to give you an idea. So what we have here is one team really does have an advantage, and that's on the defense. And I've talked about Iowa State's. It's pretty much a bend, don't break. Their defense is ranked on Football Outsiders ranked 13th in the nation. Their offense, actually in efficiency, is ranked 12th, which is surprising for some. Iowa State's a lot more of a balanced team, run versus pass, whereas Oregon wants to run the ball. Vardell is a question mark whether he's going to play in this game. And Jay referenced a game which I thought was pretty interesting because I looked at it. It was UCLA. And Oregon rushed for maybe 60 yards. They had one guy die, I think was their backup runner. Vardell didn't play. UCLA ran one guy 34 times for 167 yards, 2 touchdowns. To me, that's where it lies. Jay really nailed it. Like, not that we can't pass the ball, but we can run on this defense. And when you're looking at how he breaks it down, blocking an edge rusher versus a middle rusher, either way, they either run away from that guy, let him inside, take Brees outside, RPO. You could bring Purdy outside, and Purdy beat this kid in high school. I mean, it was like 65-62 type game. I mean, the inconsistency.
It was basically Mahomes and Mayfield, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the kid's he's in his head already. So in terms of stats, I thought that was interesting to say. Really, the biggest difference is Iowa State's defense, guys, and we've known that. And I know, Chris, you're a big defense guy. So
defensive line, man, that's my position group.
Listen, as I look at this now on the money, so let's look at the money. How do we take all of what I've kind of given you, wrap it around into dollars and cents? So right now, Iowa State's getting 71% of the bets. They're getting 85% of the cash. However, that line stayed relatively the same, which means there's probably some sharp money coming in. I've got it at 57.5. Sharp money coming in favor of Oregon. Just a little bit, not a ton, but enough to keep that line literally legit frozen. And there's a reason. I mean, Oregon is good as a dog in a bowl game. They just are. However, they're not 1-0 in Arizona.
2-0. You're forgetting about Paul Rhodes
2009
Fiesta Bowl against Minnesota.
Right.
There we go. There you go. There we go. So Iowa State. Gosh, Mac was 3-1. Was that right? Was he 3-1 in bowl games? Did I have that correct?
Matt, no, that was Paul Rhodes. Paul Rhodes was 09. Yeah, so Mac was 2-3.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
I bowl
because he won the Independence Bowl against Miami of Ohio.
That's right.
Me and Meyer to Blythe podcast.
Meyer to Blythe.
Technically, we beat Alabama, by the way.
Right. Well, that's
a
given.
I mean, you heard Coach say it, dude. Yelk's field goal was so good, it was good on TV.
All right, Todd, real quick before we got to wrap this thing up, do you see this line moving at all? Like if somebody was waiting for some action on this? I mean, I know you and me, anywhere 4 to 5.5, we don't really care. But do you think that from what you're seeing, do you anticipate movement here?
With all this money yeah, with all this money coming in Iowa State, I would just wait. You don't have to play it now. It's not going to go up to 6 or anything like that. If anything, it may come our way. The play is I like, as you guys know, it's not a love. I like Iowa State, and I like the over.
Wow, come on.
I see
Come
this.
on, under. We'll go opposite here. I'm an under
I
guy.
see this is an over game. After the 2 losses, we've scored a boatload of
It's a dumb trend.
It's like Baylor.
I will add this, interestingly enough, for those concerned with the over-under.
Come on, Brent.
Oregon averages 62 plays per game. Iowa State's at 66 plays per game. The average plays per game for a college football team is 73. Both are slower tempo.
Yeah, both very slow this year.
Don't fall into the. I mean, I think they can here, but again, anytime you're dealing with that number in the below 60, if you get into overtime at all, you know, in a close game, then you're done. So I'm just saying though, like I would lean, Todd, not to be against you here. I would lean towards C-Dub's side.
No, I'm with you. I was on it the whole time. And then I saw this, and I saw what Oregon State's been scoring. I added it all, A plus B equals C, so C's got to equal D. And
all
D
overthinking
it. I just did. I like the over. I'm going over 57.5.
I respect it.
Todd, I love you, man. Thanks for your analysis. Action Fanatics on Twitter. We're just getting started, buddy. Look at that. We're splashing the logo.
Yeah, the graphics are phenomenal, and you guys do a great job. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook up at Wild Rose and Jefferson. By the way, starting Friday, I know it's weird, but you don't have to go there to sign up to get your app. It's all changing, just so you guys know that. They're going to have a couple of different apps, but there's nothing better than the DraftKings app, by the way.
No, it's the best. And they give you those cool promo codes and stuff like that you can knock out. I love that.
We got $50 coming our way just on that Clemson game alone.
Boom. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate you, my man.
Love you guys. See ya. Go.
Love you too, buddy. Mr. Mac, get out of here. All right, Blum. Any party words? This has been a fun show. We need to lead every podcast off with McCarney just to get us, in the groove. Get us ready to go.
People are probably still amped up over that, so at least they're hanging on for us two slappies. But
Man.
No, I mean, what an opportunity, though. I mean, it's a great way to start with Mac, but I'll end it with this. Iowa State is in a position it has never been in before. We wish people were there with us down there in Phoenix on Saturday, but yet, what a way to start 2021, right? Like, let's get this 2020 over with. I'm so thankful and grateful for Iowa State football to get us to 2021, but let's start this thing off with a bang.
And I'll say it this, I'm not going, which is difficult. There's part of me that literally wants to cry talking about not being there to experience Iowa State's first, New Year's Six type bowl game, but also a fan site guy, right? And without fans, it doesn't feel right for me. Blum, I've had a really hard time with this year. I do not like being in empty football stadiums. My anxiety spikes. Like, I get all these feelings that I do not appreciate.
I don't blame you.
It's weird and I'll tell you this, my friend, when you're flying back on Saturday night, if Iowa State wins, we're going to be having one hell of a party here in the state of Iowa. And I'm going to be sitting in your driveway when you pull up with a bottle of Cody Road.
I welcome it, and I anticipate drinking that because I feel good about it.
I do too. Thank you, Blum. Appreciate you as always, my man. Blum will be heading out. What do you guys head out tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yep.
On New Year's Eve. Blum will be heading out with the Cyclone Radio Network. Just want to tell you guys real quick about everything we have planned. If you don't subscribe already to the Cyclone Fanatic Podcast Network, you should. We've had a lot of great content this week. Jared Stansberry and Rob Gray have been littering our front page. I'm biased because it's my baby, but I don't think anybody's covered the Fiesta Bowl like we have, and I don't think it's even close. Videos, analysis. Jeff Woody had a great piece today on the just the X's and O's of it. Go and check it all out. Jared Stansberry today interviewed an Oregon Duck beat writer. That is going to be on the podcast network coming up tomorrow. Big day on Saturday, okay? Here's what's going on Saturday. Men's basketball tips off against number 2 Baylor at noon. At 1 o'clock, Todd Blythe, Brett Meyer, 2 of the greatest Cyclones of all time, are going to join me right here on the stream. Matt Van Winkle is going to be with us as well. And we're going to watch the second half of the basketball game. And we're just going to take you right up to about kick time for the Fiesta Bowl. Brett and I will be back for halftime analysis, and then we're going to do all of our normal post-game coverage. Jared Stansbury will be live in Glendale. Or is it Phoenix?
Glendale's the actual technical location.
Yeah.
The Phoenix Metroplex.
Okay, Stansbury will be live down there. We've got a full weekend for you guys, and man, just thank you so much. We're gonna break records of our own for tonight's stream, and I feel like you all love this type of content, and we're gonna keep building on it for the future. Matt Van Winkle, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this without him. Praise God that he moved back to the area.
Cheers, Matt.
Literally the greatest intern of all time, Matt Van Winkle, and he's a big grown man. He's got a kid now. It's crazy. He's our neighbor. We all live in Bondurant together. But I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. Blum, get to Arizona safely and back, and give everybody our best. All right.
All right, my friend. Go Cyclones.
All right, go Cyclones, everybody. And as my daughter Cameron came on and said, Cy is better than the duck. And that's really all you need to know. With that, we'll sign off. Thanks for watching tonight.